Money. It's what makes the world go round. It's what puts food on the table, and it's what pays the bills. There is no disputing that travel and tourism can be a great way to make money. After all, it's the biggest industry in the world, employing more people than any other industry. The economic impacts of tourism are indisputable, but there is also more than meets the eye. Today, I am going to introduce you to a new way of thinking when you spend your money on travel-related products and services. My name's Dr. Hayley Stainton from tourismteacher.com, and I'm here to teach you the theory behind the facts when it comes to travel and tourism management. Whether you're an avid traveller, a travel and tourism student, or someone who works in travel and tourism, it is important that we all learn how to make the travel and tourism industry more sustainable in order to preserve it for future generations. And if you do agree with me that this is super important, make sure that you subscribe to my channel so that you get notifications when new videos are released, and don't forget to hit the like button for this video too. So let's get down to business and talk about the economic impacts of tourism. So I'd just like to start off this video by highlighting to you the economic value of the travel and tourism industry. Travel and tourism is big business. In recent years, tourism numbers have increased globally at exponential rates. The rise of low-cost airlines such as EasyJet, Ryanair, AirAsia and Southwest Airlines, emerging economies such as China and India, and an increased social desire to see the world has all contributed to the growth of the travel and tourism industry. Here are a few facts that demonstrate to you the global economic impact of the travel and tourism industry. The tourism industry represents 5% of world GDP. Tourism contributes 6 to 7% of total employment. International tourism ranks 4th after fuels, chemicals, and automotive products in global exports. The tourism industry is valued at $1 trillion a year. Tourism accounts for 30% of the world's exports of commercial services. Tourism accounts for 6% of total exports. 1.4 billion international tourists were recorded in 2018. In over 150 countries, tourism is one of the top 5 export earners. Tourism is the main source of foreign exchange for 1/3 of developing countries and 1/2 of less economically developed countries. So, what do the positive economic impacts of tourism actually look like on the ground? Let's dig a bit deeper. One of the biggest benefits of tourism is the ability to make money through foreign exchange earnings. Tourism expenditures generate income for the host economy. The money that the country makes from tourism can then be reinvested into the economy. How a destination manages their finances differs around the world. Some destinations may spend this money on growing their tourism industry further. Some may spend this money on public services such as education or healthcare. And some destinations suffer from extreme corruption, so who knows where their money ends up. And some currencies are worth more than others, and so some countries will target tourists from particular areas. I remember on my first trip to Goa, India, and a man kindly offered to help me with my bags. So I reached into my purse to get him a few rupees, and he said, no, I don't want that. I want pounds, British pounds. Currencies that are strong are generally the most desirable currencies. This typically includes the British pound, American, Australian, and Singapore dollar, and the euro. Tourism is one of the top 5 export categories in as many as 83% of countries, and is a main source of foreign exchange earnings for at least 38% of countries. Tourism can help raise money that can then be reinvested elsewhere by the government. There are 2 main ways that this money is accumulated. Direct contributions are generated by taxes on incomes from tourism employment and tourism businesses, and things such as departure taxes. Taxes differ considerably between destinations. I will never forget the time that I learned all about departure taxes. I was in Indonesia on my way back from a 6-month backpacking trip, and I was stung with this tax. I had no money, so that didn't go down so well. Indirect contributions come from goods and services supplied to tourists which are not directly related to the tourism industry. Take food, for example. A tourist may buy food at a local supermarket. The supermarket is not directly associated with tourism, but if it wasn't for tourism, its revenues wouldn't be as high because the tourists would not shop there. There is also income that is generated through induced contributions. This accounts for money spent by the people who are employed in the tourism industry. This might include costs for housing, food, clothing, and leisure activities, amongst others. This will all contribute to an increase in economic activity in the area where tourism is being developed. The rapid expansion of international tourism has led to significant employment creation. From hotel managers to theme park operatives to cleaners, tourism creates many employment opportunities. In fact, tourism supports some 7% of all the jobs in the world. That's pretty significant. There are 2 types of employment in the tourism industry: direct and indirect. Direct employment includes jobs that are immediately associated with the tourism industry. This might include hotel staff, restaurant staff, or taxi drivers, to name a few. Indirect employment includes jobs which are not technically based in the tourism industry, but are related to the tourism industry. Take a fisherman, for example. He does not have any contact or dealings with the tourists, but he does sell his fish to the hotel which serves the tourist. So he is indirectly employed by the tourism industry, because without the tourists, he would not be supplying the fish to the hotel. It is because of indirect relationships such as these that it is really difficult to actually accurately measure the size and scope of the travel and tourism industry. It's also difficult to say how many people are employed, directly or indirectly. Furthermore, many informal employments may not officially be accounted for. Think tuk-tuk driver in Cambodia or street seller in the Gambia. These people are not likely to be registered by the state and therefore their earnings are not declared. It's for this reason that the actual economic benefits of tourism might be as much as double what we think they are. All of the money raised, whether through formal or informal means, has the potential to contribute to the local economy. If sustainable tourism is demonstrated, money will be directed to areas that will benefit the local community most. There may be pro-poor tourism initiatives, or volunteer tourism projects, for example. The government may reinvest money towards public services, and money earned by tourism employees will be spent in the local community. This is known as the multiplier effect. The multiplier effect relates to spending in one place creating economic benefits elsewhere. Tourism can do wonders for a destination in areas that may seem to be completely unrelated to tourism, but which actually are connected somewhere within the economic system. Let me give you an example. A tourist is staying in a hotel. He goes to the restaurant and he buys an omelette and a freshly squeezed orange juice for his breakfast. Now this may sound simple, but actually the ripple effect, the multiplier effect, can be significant. And here's how. Let's start looking at the waiter. There is a waiter who serves the tourist his breakfast. The waiter is paid a salary. He spends his salary on schooling for his kids. The school has more money to spend on equipment. Therefore, the standard of education at the school increases. The kids then graduate with better qualifications, and as adults, they secure better paying jobs. They can then spend more money in the local community. Now let's think about the eggs. The restaurant purchases eggs from a local farmer. The farmer uses that money to buy some more chickens. The chicken breeder uses that money to improve the standards of their cages, meaning that the chickens are healthier, live longer, and lay more eggs. They can now sell the chickens for a higher price. The increased money made means that they can hire an extra employee. That employee spends his income in the local community. And then let's think about the oranges. The restaurant purchases the oranges from a local supplier. The supplier uses this money to pay the lorry driver who transports the oranges. The lorry driver pays road tax. The government uses the road tax to fit in the road. The improved roads make journeys quicker for the local community. So as you can see, something so small as an omelette and some orange juice can actually have significant impacts on the wider economy. The private sector has continuously developed within the tourism industry, and owning a business within the private sector can be extremely profitable, making this a positive economic impact of tourism. Many businesses that you will come across are multinational, internationally owned organisations, which contributes to economic leakage. Now this is something I'm going to cover in another video in a few weeks' time, so make sure you subscribe and hit the notifications so that you're told once that's released. Many businesses are also owned by the local community. This is the case even more so in recent years due to the rise in popularity of the sharing economy and the likes of Airbnb and Uber, which encourage the growth of businesses within the local community. Every destination is different with regards to how they manage the development of the private sector in tourism. Some destinations do not allow multinational organisations for fear that they will steal businesses and thus profits away from local people. I saw this firsthand when I went to Italy, and I tried to get a mug to add to my Starbucks collection. I've collected mugs from all over the world, and I was shocked to find that Italy did not have a single Starbucks. When I think about it, I guess it makes sense, but at the time, it was quite a shock to see. Unfortunately, the tourism industry does not always smell of roses, and there are negative economic impacts of tourism too. There are in fact many hidden costs to tourism, which can have unfavourable benefits both to the hosts and to the tourists. Whilst such negative impacts are well documented in the tourism literature, I have a few examples here, and there is a recommended reading list just down below. The problem is that most people, your general public, are not aware of a lot of these impacts. Likewise, there are many travel and tourism industry stakeholders who are undereducated when it comes to tourism, and they are not aware of the problems that can occur when tourism is not planned well and managed sustainably. And this is actually my main motivation for making this video today, because I want to teach you, I want to teach everyone about how we can make travel and tourism better and how we can do better. Economic leakage in tourism is when money spent does not remain in the country but ends up elsewhere, therefore limiting the economic benefits of tourism to the host destination. The biggest culprits of economic leakage are multinational and internationally owned corporations who spend the majority of their profits overseas, and all-inclusive holidays and forms of enclave tourism such as cruises, which discourage tourists from spending money in the community. One thing that we can all do to help is to shop local. Book your tours and excursions directly with the people who live locally. After all, locals do know the area better than anyone else. And buy products that are grown locally. So for example, buy that freshly squeezed orange juice that was grown just down the road, instead of that can of soda that's been imported God knows how many miles. Another negative economic impact of tourism is the cost of infrastructure. Tourism development can cost the local government and local taxpayers a great deal of money. Tourism may require the government to improve airports, roads, and other infrastructure, which can be costly. Take the development of the third runway at London Heathrow, for example, which is estimated to cost £18.6 billion to develop. Money that is spent in these areas may reduce government money needed in other critical areas such as education and health. This is often referred to as opportunity costs. The presence of tourism increases prices in the local area. Have you ever tried to buy, say, a can of Coke at the hotel? Or maybe at a seafront bar? It's probably fairly pricey, but I can guarantee if you just walk down the street, go to a local shop round the corner, you will find that exact same can of Coke for a fraction of the price. Increasing demand for basic services and goods from tourists will often cause price hikes that negatively impact local residents whose income does not increase proportionately. Tourism development and the related rise in real estate demand may dramatically increase building costs and land values. This often means that local people will be forced to move away from the area that tourism is located, known as gentrification. Taking measures to ensure that tourism is managed sustainably can help to mitigate this negative economic impact of tourism. Techniques such as employing only local people, limiting the number of all-inclusive hotels, and encouraging the purchasing of local products and services can all help. And there are many countries who run the risk of becoming too dependent on tourism. The country sees dollar signs and places all of its efforts in tourism. Whilst this can work out well, it is also risky business. If for some reason tourism begins to lack in a destination, then it's important that the destination has alternative methods of making money. If they don't, then they run the risk of being in severe financial difficulty if there is a decline in the tourism industry. In the Gambia, for instance, 30% of the workforce depends directly or indirectly on tourism. In small island developing states, percentages can range from 83% in the Maldives to 21% in the Seychelles and 34% in Jamaica. And there are many different reasons why tourism might decline in a destination too. Economic recession, natural disasters, changing tourism patterns, and pandemics are all reasons why tourism may decline in a specific destination or around the globe. Over-reliance on tourism carries risks to tourism-dependent economies, which can have devastating consequences. As a result, it is imperative that destinations diversify their income and do not place too much reliance on travel and tourism. And the last negative economic impact of tourism that is worth talking about is that of foreign ownership and management. As enterprise in the developed world becomes increasingly expensive, many businesses choose to go abroad. While this might save the business money, it is usually not so beneficial for the economy of the host destination. Foreign companies often bring with them their own staff, thus limiting the economic impact of increased employment. They will usually also export a large proportion of their income to the country where they are based. Furthermore, foreign-owned organisations may not always have the needs of the local community at the forefronts of their minds. So, as I have demonstrated in this video, tourism is a significant economic driver the world over. However, not all economic impacts of tourism are positive. And in order to ensure that we maximise the positive economic impacts of tourism, careful tourism management is required. And we all have a role to play. And if you are interested in learning a little bit more about how we can better manage the travel and tourism industry, I have provided a recommended reading list in the description for you. And I also have lots more articles about topics related to this on my website, tourismteacher.com. This video is actually just one part of a 3-part series on the impacts of tourism. So please do take a look at my video on the environmental impacts of tourism and on the social impacts of tourism. And if you have found this video helpful or interesting, please do remember to subscribe to my channel and don't forget to hit the like button too.